By the end of today's episode, you'll know exactly how casting directors pick actors for auditions. Welcome to the Actor's Career Compass, where we help aspiring screen actors find high-quality auditions, sign with great agents, and book major roles in legit productions. I'm your host, Martin Benson, and today we're going to be talking about the exact steps that many casting directors follow as they decide who to choose for an audition when they're reviewing your casting profile online. You're going to learn what they look for in the actors who are submitting, how they narrow it down, and how they ultimately decide on the actors who are going to be invited to submit self-tapes or attend in-person auditions. Ready to dive in? All right, so first off, they will submit a detailed description of each character's traits, their age, and their type information, and they submit these out to casting platforms like Breakdown Express, Casting Networks, and Actors Access. They're going to outline a few key qualities like emotional range or look, or even a little bit of the character's backstory. And what this does, by essentially being specific about what they want, but not too specific, it's going to allow people to self-eliminate, right? So if they're looking for an Asian person and you're white, well, you're probably not going to submit, right? So this automatically helps narrow it down from the zillions of actors out there to just a few thousand, let's say. Now, these actors all are going to respond. The people who feel like they fit that character, they're going to respond to the audition opportunity or casting call by sending in their materials. They're going to submit their profile. They might choose a headshot. They might choose some clips to include. They might write a simple cover letter or submissions note. And at that point, the casting director or assistant casting director is going to do what's called an initial screening. And this is really, really fast. It's going to take less than 30 seconds usually per actor. Okay. And so the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look at your headshots. Okay. They're looking to see, do you look like what I'm wanting for this role? Again, we talked about that. If you're white and they're looking for Asian, then chances are they're going to eliminate you right away, right? So if they like what they see in your headshots, then many of them, a high percentage, are next going to click to see what your Slate Shot is that is attached to that headshot. A Slate Shot is generally going to be a very short, couple-second video that is attached to each headshot where the actor would say, "Hi, my name is Martin Benson." And by clicking to see this Slate Shot, it's so quick, but what they're going to learn from it is that is actually what the actor looks like in their headshot is what they look like in real life, okay? Because it's very difficult to Photoshop or to use AI to generate a fake video, whereas it's way easier to do that to photos. So these days, many casting directors honestly don't trust headshots anymore because people are using AI or overly retouched images. And so if the actor doesn't have a Slate Shot that is attached to their primary headshot, they're probably going to be eliminated immediately. And this is a big one, and it's very important. You need to have a Slate Shot attached to each of your headshots. If you don't, if you only have it attached to one headshot and you don't want to pay the additional fee that casting website might have for extra Slate Shots, then what's going to happen is anytime that you submit a different headshot that does not have a Slate Shot attached to it, casting directors, not all of them, but many of them will automatically eliminate you because they won't trust that you actually look like what's in the photo. And they don't want to spend too much time going and looking at your reel and everything to try to figure out what you look like. They want to figure that out right away. They're like, does this person actually look like what they look like in their photo, and what does the person's voice sound like? Those are two critical things that they need to know immediately before they're even willing to look at your resume or your clips or anything else. Now, If an actor at this point has a very captivating submissions note that is super short, like just a sentence or two, that instantly captures attention, the casting director might skim it briefly. Independent filmmakers, small-time student filmmakers, and other indie filmmakers, they're probably more likely to read your submissions note than a busy casting director is. But sometimes casting directors do read those notes, especially if it's something that just captures their attention within a split second of reading the first few words on it. So this is your chance to convince a casting director to watch your reel, especially if your resume isn't very strong, okay? Remember that most casting directors, as I said before, are rarely going to read these notes unless they're extremely compelling. So if you want them to read it, you need to figure out how to capture their attention within like a split second. I may do a podcast on this in the future. If you want me to do a podcast on writing super compelling submissions notes, shoot me an email at martin@cityheadshots.com to let me know. Anyway, whether or not they read your submissions note doesn't matter, because the next step, I mean, it does matter. We'll talk about that in a second, but they're going to regardless go to look at your resume. Okay, that's the next thing. They want to make sure that you've got at least some speaking credits on screen. If the actor does not have any speaking credits, or the credits are super minimal or only for tiny budget student films, they might not even review any of the actor's like monologue clips or reel. They're going to assume that the performance, the acting ability of the actor isn't good enough to be worth their time. And so they're not even going to click past the resume. However, to come back to that submissions note, if you don't have many credits, but you have a super compelling submissions note that, again, captures their attention within a split second and gets them to want to read it, they may overlook the fact that you don't have many credits and be willing to at least click to play your clips and or reel. Which brings us to the final step in this process of elimination, which is they're going to review your reel or clips. In general, my recommendation is that actors only include 1 or 2 clips at most, so that the casting director isn't overwhelmed looking through too many clips. You can usually select which clips you want to include with your submission. Do not submit like 10 or 5 clips, because they might wind up accidentally playing one that's not in alignment with the character type that they're looking for, or that just doesn't have as good of acting as some of your other ones. So the 1 to 2 clips that the actor includes in their submission should be either a demo reel, if you have it, or a monologue that's in alignment with the character type. So if it's like a lawyer that you're submitting for, then your monologue should be somewhat related to that. And it needs to have what I call a very strong level 4 performance. Now, I have a podcast episode on the different levels of acting, but I'll explain it more in a second. If the acting is off, okay, if it's anything less than what I call level 3, the actor is almost certainly going to be eliminated at this stage. Whereas for actors who have really strong, compelling performances in their clip, ideally level 4, but at least level 3, if the actor aligns with and seems like a good fit for the character, the casting director is going to be much more likely to send them sides and ask them to send in a self-tape or come to an audition for the role. So that is sort of the process of elimination, and those things are all super important if you want to vastly increase your chance of getting invited to audition. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening today. Now, if you do want to learn about the levels of acting, like how to judge your acting ability, what I call the 4 levels of acting, I highly recommend checking out my podcast episode called How to Use the 4 Levels of Acting to Book Major SAG-AFTRA Auditions, which is episode number 45. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to have a much better understanding of how to judge your own acting ability so that you can start submitting stronger auditions and recording stronger monologues. Okay, check it out. Episode number 45, How to Use the 4 Levels of Acting to Book Major SAG-AFTRA Auditions on the Actor's Career Compass. Lastly, if you'd like to get some personalized advice or have me coach you one-on-one on your acting, love to hop on a quick Zoom call. We'll take a look at where you are, what you're struggling with, and I'll help you figure out what the best next steps should be for you to take. We'll discuss whether one of my one-to-one coaching programs might be a good fit for you. So whenever you're ready, just visit martinbenson.com and you can set it up. I'd love to meet with you. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.